Hello class, it is me, senior teacher. Today we are going to be talking about something very important. This thing is called jowls. Now, can anyone pick one word that they think describes who is this jowls?
Effervescent.
Passionate.
Genuine.
One word is never enough, but that word would be electric. Yes.
Girl!
Julia is a listener.
Full of life.
Devoted.
Devoted.
I was like, that girl is beautiful.
Magnetic.
Ecstatic.
Julia is a leader.
The one word I would use to describe Julia is bright.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
One word to describe Julia. Vibrant.
Vibrant.
Vivacious.
Vivacious.
I would say a word that I have recently begun using and I think fits you beautifully is vivacious.
Enthusiastic.
A star.
That was very good, class. Especially that last guy. He seems very smart. Probably went somewhere like a Union College. Alright, so now we all know you can't just sum up the jowls in one word. Maybe a memory. Does anybody have a memory or a story that really shows who is Jowls?
Hey, Julia. So, a few favorite memories to share from growing up together. The first one being celebrating our birthday together. We somehow always managed to make our birthday the most exciting day of the year. I think we even managed to make one of our English teachers throw us a birthday party in class. Not sure how we managed that, but we did. Also, when we would be in musicals together. I mean, you would be in the musical and I would be on stage crew, but same difference. Another one of my all-time favorite memories was just hanging out at the Stack house. This kind of goes out to all your family. Stack family dinners were like the best time of my life, and going around the table and talking about your day or what you like about one person. I still do that all the time, and most people really hate me for it, but I do it regardless.
One of my favorite memories of Julia was when I was a freshman in high school and she was a senior. It was back when I was in Mr. Teitler's math class. Everyone remembers that. And I had just taken a math test and it went really badly, and I was sitting in the hallway crying like a dweeb. And Julia found me, and she was at the time like hanging out with some friends, being cool, but she came and just sat next to me and held me while I cried and made me feel better. And this was before we were even really close friends. But she just made me feel better, didn't make me feel like an idiot for crying over a math test, and even like skipped her next class to be with me. So I haven't forgotten that.
I'm tasked with something that is way too hard. I have to pick a favorite memory of Julia. There are so many. I am not going to pick a single one, but multiple. Beginning with when she was just wee little month, 2 month, 3 month old, and we used to take her for walks in the carriage around Cooper River when we lived in a place that actually had warm enough weather in the months of March and April. Loved it because she was just lovely. Our first child, such a joy. Secondly, we used to take rides when she was on the back of the bike. As I understand it, this was somewhat scary for her, not at all for me. I used to say, "What does a cow say?" To which she would reply, "Moo," with an incredible consistency. Same thing for dogs, pigs, cats, all of them. She had the animal sounds down. Another beautiful memory was all the times that we would take walks. She was always excited about all the different parts of nature and things that she could identify, and I loved all those activities.
Hi, Boo Boo. So, as we all know, we were mildly obsessed with each other at Roberts when we were working together. And one of my favorite things to do was to travel with you. So one of the trips was NAGCAP when we went to Syracuse. And we had just finished packing up and we were super exhausted because we had spent an entire day talking to students who were apathetic and whatever. But I wanted a pizza more. So we pulled to the side and you were such a good sport. You were like, okay, let's find a pizza place. So we pulled up on Yelp. We found a pizza place that was giving also free cocktails. So we ended up staying at the bar. And then do you remember the waitress? She like literally cannot stop butting into our conversations. And somehow it ended on the conversation of it's our fault that Bernie isn't being elected president and is not nominated because we don't vote or we think that vote is being thrown away, blah, blah, blah. So anyways, then we get back into the car and I make a comment as we're driving that I feel like I'm going to fall asleep at the wheel. And you get just a little concerned. As you should. And so our plan of action that we implemented was to roll down the windows even though it was freezing outside and it was like sleeting / raining. And so it was like hitting our faces and we cranked up the music as loud as we could and we were dancing for like a solid half hour. And I just remember laughing so much with you that night, like for a solid hour that my head and my stomach hurt. And so that was one of my favorite memories of you.
My favorite remembrance is missions trip. And why I like this is because I won, Julia. You were trying to take a shower when everybody was supposed to be out of the shower room, but you thought you had special privileges. And with great difficulty, I stood my ground and thought, this is a good lesson for you, that you don't run the show. And I kicked you out of the bathroom, and that was the hardest thing I think I've ever had to do on a missions trip. But I won. But your enthusiasm is amazing, and you're amazing, and I love you very much. And happy birthday.
Hey, Jules. I had a lot of different ideas where I was thinking about my favorite memory of you is, and the one that actually came to mind is one that might be a little bit surprising, but it was when you came back from YouthWorks and we had our family vacation. I forget where, I think this might have been when we were in the Adirondacks, and you just kind of like broke down one afternoon and wanted to talk about what made you feel loved from our family, and particularly what made you feel unloved and in coming back from this trip and having so much you want to talk about and not feeling like people cared. And that was just a really powerful demonstration of how to have good conversations with people and how to express emotion and have constructive dialogue. And a lot of things that I, in my immature high school self, hadn't really thought a lot about. And that certainly revealed to me in a lot of ways how beautiful your way of interacting with people is and how much you care about a family and how much you long to just create spaces where people can share openly and be themselves and just really love people well.
A memory that I love was that one time that you and me and Paul went to Lux and just like danced our faces off and just like did not care. People were thinking we were really weird, but just had like such a good time, and you won the dance contest and it was freaking awesome and you deserved it, and you should always Like, if you're ever feeling down, you should always think about that moment and think about that memory.
Is when she and Alex invited Abby and I to dinner at their apartment. Me and Abby had made like a deep fried cheese dessert, pretty much like the most unhealthy dessert you can think of. Alex had made this really delicious jerk chicken, and Julia had made this like super good salad with like goat cheese and cranberries. But definitely best of all was the on-tap Shirley Temples. Those were spectacular. But this was one of the few times, I think this was actually like the first time I had spent any like close to one-on-one time with you and Alex, and I remember being really impressed. I was impressed with how much you had grown in patience, compassion, and love, and it was amazing to see these changes brought out in your marriage.
First memory is one time we wanted to bake cookies, and I can't remember what the event or the occasion was, but we wanted them to be purple. And so we're thinking, oh, red dye plus blue dye equals purple, right? Like, that simple. And it ended up being this weird colored, like, brown, and the cookies turned out looking inedible. At least we thought inedible. And I brought my cookies home. Nobody ate them. But you brought your cookies home, and they were gone within a day with the Stack family. And I love that memory just because I feel like doing goofy, fun things like that was just something that we always did. And then my second memory was the first time we ever hung out alone was 8th grade, right before the Alice in Wonderland musical tryouts. And you came over to my house to practice lines. And I remember afterwards my mom being like, what were you guys talking about? Because I've never heard you laugh that much in my entire life. And I remember thinking at that moment, like, this is the beginning of a good friendship. This is something great.
One of my favorite memories of Julia is every summer we would go down to the beach there on the lake and we would have a picnic. And every summer, even after she went to college, we would go and we would just sit and talk and, I don't know, just get caught up, talk about things that were important. Well, one year we got to be talking a little bit too much and the sun went down. And apparently there was an ordinance in effect that you couldn't be on the beach after dark. And we were. So we came up from the beach and there was a lovely little cop car waiting for us. And we were a little afraid. I was a little afraid because I could just imagine calling Julia's parents from the police station saying, hey, come get us. But fortunately we didn't have to because there was someone else on the beach after us. So apparently you didn't have to just be late. As long as there was someone later than you, then you didn't get too much in trouble. But have so many memories of Julia. Julia, I love you so much. And the end.
My favorite memory with Julia is when she and Alex were preparing to move to Atlanta. I was upset that they were leaving, but we were just trying to spend as much time together as possible before they left. So one night, Julia asked me if I wanted a sleepover, and I said yes immediately. And she mentioned something about getting a dog around this time, but I figured that it was nothing because Julia is notorious for hating all living creatures. Babies, dogs, kitties, you name it, she doesn't like them. So I figured it was just a phase, whatever they were talking about. However, I get to their apartment and sure enough, Kai is there. And I was really confused, but I was very happy at the same time. So after cuddling with him for a while, Julia and Alex told me about the impulsiveness behind adopting Kai and how they had been thinking about getting a dog and they just figured why not a month before we leave. So they really explained their love for Kai and his story and why it was important that they got a rescue and all of that. And I mean, Julia totally took a rapid turn with the adoption of Kai and really showed a different side of her through getting him. And I chose this as my favorite memory because it showed a point of huge growth and sacrifice for Julia. She, at this time in her life, was sacrificing so much for those that she loved. She was willing to drop everything, go to Atlanta, leave all of her friends in Rochester behind, and even become a dog person.
One of my favorite Julia moments was right before her wedding to Alex. She needed help fixing her makeup, her lipstick, because she wanted to make sure that it would last throughout the whole wedding. And I was the person in the room who wore the most lipstick, so I helped her and showed her a little trick to make it stay. And that was just such a special moment. And it was captured on film. It was captured digitally, and that's one of my favorite pictures ever of all time. And it was an honor to be able to help her on her special day, and she's such a special, wonderful person. I'm gonna cry. And then my other favorite Julia moment was I was not feeling well, and she was staying with Claire, and she and I were supposed to get breakfast, just the two of us, and I did not want to stand her up, so I went, and I had such a bad headache, but through our laughter and just our time, we weren't doing anything crazy. We were just sitting there having breakfast and just laughing a lot and having a wonderful time, and just her presence made me feel so much better. And I went to work and was able to take on my day, and that's all because of her, because just those little moments and those little things she does just by being herself just makes people feel better. She makes the world glow brighter. She makes just everything happier. Just droning on and on now, but I just really love Julia. And yeah, those are some of my favorite Julia moments.
My favorite memory with Julia is all the times that we made couch tubs in the family room and would stay up late talking about anything and everything. My favorite thing about Julia is that she never forgets anything you tell her and loves to know even just small details about your life.
When I was thinking about my favorite memories with you, one that was brought to mind was when you had invited Siobhan and me to your house, your apartment back in Rochester for a double date. I just remember having such a fun time that night, largely due to your ability to ask thoughtful questions, to bring loads of positive energy to every single conversation, and to listen well to other people. So I also really appreciated how much time and effort you and Alex had obviously put into making the food, into presenting it, into like making like fancy mixed drinks and Shirley Temples and whatnot. That was great. And I also think that night definitely highlighted your ability to make others feel welcomed and accepted. Yeah, because when we started playing euchre, I was kind of worried that Siobhan would get upset at herself and for not playing well or understanding all the rules. Since there have been times when her and I have played cards in the past, and she has been like that. But I think you did a really good job of facilitating and accepting group dynamic where she didn't feel pressured, which was really great. And I think it was definitely very great, especially when you consider how seriously our family takes euchre, which was good.
So I met Julia, I was her youth leader, and she was in 9th or 10th grade, and I just remember seeing her interact and thinking, I hope someday she uses her powers for good.
Julia, happy birthday. I love you so much. And thinking of my favorite memory with you, it's just so hard because everything has just felt so special. Like going on runs and talking about everything we felt and thought of in like an hour, or just like every time we got to dance together, every time we got to like share our intellectual interests together. But something that does just feel really special, thinking back on our friendship, is I remember senior year for my birthday, it was just like kind of a shitty birthday. It was like a Sunday and I was coming back from being home, back to school. It was after Thanksgiving break. And I just remember feeling really lonely and like not wanting to be back and like feeling like all anxious, and you came to my room and you brought me your like s'mores chocolate chip cookies or whatever those were, and just like a really thoughtful like leopard print cardboard cutout thing with like different like female empowerment things on it, and we just talked and giggled for hours, and I just felt like so cared for in that moment and just so attended to and thought of. And he just made me feel so special. Like, I just really felt good. And I just feel like that, like, encapsulates you. Like, you are just so playful and thoughtful and vibrant and just like a wonderful human being. And I love you, and I hope you have a wonderful birthday.
So my favorite memory of Julia has to be the first time I saw her after I was done with college. My freshman year of college, I had some bad friends that encouraged me to delete everyone off of my Facebook account that I no longer spoke to. But that was silly because I hadn't spoken with any of my high school friends. It was the first semester of college. But I ended up unnecessarily distancing myself from a lot of my high school friends that way. Anyway, I was still hanging out with April, and she encouraged me after college to come to this hangout, sleepover thing with a bunch of people from Browncroft Youth Group, and she said it was going to be fine, and I was like really nervous that everyone was going to be mad at me or that they thought I didn't like them because I made this stupid mistake. But I went with April to the Stack House, and Julia opened the door, and the first thing that she did after not seeing or speaking to me for 4 years was, "Hi, oh my gosh, it's amazing to see you," and she hugged me, and she made me feel so good and accepted, and I know it might seem like a little thing, but it was like, hey, mistakes happen, and she loved me through it. So I love you, Jules. Thank you for being an amazing friend. Merry Christmas.
One of my favorite things about being friends with you growing up was that you had this feisty, rebellious, joyful side of you that came out in the form of some terrible decisions. So the one night where you just had your permit at this point, but we had Starbucks gift cards that needed to be used. And we drove to Starbucks. We were blaring music. We were rocking along to Ben Folds. And we were like, we got time. We should be okay. And this was when Mom and Dad were out and had told us to babysit. So then we get in the driveway and we see Mom and Dad's car. We're like, oh, God. And then Mom storms out to the car and furiously tries to open the handle. She's like, oh, but she can't because the door is locked. And then you know the ensuing consequences from there. But that's one of my favorite memories of you.
I have a lot of favorite memories with Julia. Like the time that we played Strip 21 in Eliz's hammock and ended up sprawled out butt naked on the lawn with a floodlight shining on us. Or the time that we drove around Fairport with no shirts on and ninja masks and got pulled over by the police. But Julia, you already know the beginning and ending of those stories, and I don't feel like I need to tell them to you. But what you probably don't know is that my actual favorite memory with you was not from a specific story, but from a time in my life, which was when my dad got sick and passed away. Because at that period of time, I think that you were the only friend that I really felt like was going through it with me. I felt like your world was shattered when my world was shattered, and your beliefs were questioned when my beliefs were questioned. And you have no idea how much that meant to me.
Hi, Julia. I'm going to share some of my precious memories of you from your early years, and I'm going to start from your birth. So, my labor started on February 7th and 8th, kind of on and off, and then my water broke midnight of your birthday. We got to the birthing center at like 2:30, and then you were born at 5:23. And I just remember such shock and awe right after the birth. I'm looking at you like, this is such a miracle. I cannot believe this just happened. And I felt like it was a piece of heaven on earth, the whole birth experience. And there you are, this precious baby. So then Dad and I and you had some of this peaceful alone time. We had classical music going in the background, and it was just heaven-like. Then quickly you had some siblings. Your brother Paul was born, and you were enamored with him. You called him Baby Paul. And one of your favorite things was pointing to all the different parts of his body and naming them. You know, nose, eye, ear. He didn't mind. Then you also liked to sit down next to him when he was in his infant seat on the floor. You would sit next to him and you would rub his head and you would suck your thumb. It was very cute. Then when I was pregnant with Claire, you really were hoping for a sister, which you got, but you really wanted to name her Israel. I don't know why. I don't know where you got that idea, but you did not get your way on that one. Then I remember your 5-year-old checkup with Dr. Robinson, and she did this kindergarten readiness test with, of course, you passed with flying colors and everything was great. And then she just talks to you about, you know, what do you think about giving up the thumb? And you were very quiet in the exam room, didn't say much. And then when we get out into the car, you say to me, but Mom, my thumb is so delicious. And I said, we'll take it slow. And look, you gave it up eventually.
Hey baby, so obviously being lucky enough to be your husband offers me millions of favorite memories, but one of my favorite memories, and this might be biased because it's currently snowing out, is the time we went snowshoeing in Mendon Ponds Park. I just loved being able to adventure with you, to try a new experience with you, to be alone with you in nature and around God's creation was just so much fun, and I'm so looking forward to doing that again sometime soon. Obviously, Georgia makes it a little hard to snowshoe, but just that general theme in our relationship where we get to adventure and try new things and try new experiences together is one of my favorite things about sharing life with you. And I'm the luckiest man in the world to get new memories each day with you.
Very good, class. Those were great. Now, it is that time, so Merry Christmas and Feliz Navidad.